And greetings everyone, I'm Mar. Once again, this is my opinion, as you can tell from the title up there, continuing my trek through the episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond. One episode, and by extension, one season at a time. We are still in the home stretch, just 2 more episodes after this. This, of course, is The Power of No. Outside the finale, one of the episodes I do remember from this stretch of the season. And part of that is just because of one shot of Raymond walking into the bedroom in his very, very shiny pair of boxers all oiled up like he was getting ready to go and pose for Mr. Olympia. And of course, this is also the episode that Ray Romano got his final Emmy nomination for the series. And I have to say, compared to what else we've seen of him throughout this series, this season that is, I'd say this is the one that he deserves to get nominated for. I still say it's a shame that Peter Boyle didn't win, but I could see, Ray getting nominated. And I think if I wrote this one, I think he won. He might have actually been nominated. I really need to make my notes a little clearer sometimes, but at least getting in the running, yeah. Now, The Power of No. Given what we know about these characters, it's pretty obvious what that title is going to imply, but it has to do with their physical relationship. Now, one of the running gags all throughout the show has been that Ray has a higher sex drive than Debra, and he constantly gets rejected by her when he does some advances, and it's to the point where he gets a little tired of it. And his drive has gone down. That's actually been a joke a couple times throughout the show. Here, we find out that Debra was in the mood, and Ray inadvertently turned her down. It was because he was still in the middle of watching the game. He needed to finish watching, and he came back upstairs, and she was already out. Now, Ray notices that because of him inadvertently turning her down, her drive seems to be up. So he's like, huh, if that's how she is from one night, I wonder. So he decides to do this for a second night in a row just to see how her drive goes up. But there's a secondary motivation for it. It's not just because her drive has gone up. It's because she's also treating him a little nicer. And of course, we all know what goes through Ray's head when he notices stuff like that. It's like, huh, if she's treating me nicer, maybe I can keep drawing this out. And of course, like Ray has to do, he tells it to his brother. And his brother's like, yeah. And they get in the whole conversation about it. He's like, I'd rather have the sex, is what he says. Now, we find out later that Robert does briefly try it, but unlike Ray, he cannot stand to keep doing it for longer than his wife does her little advances. So, he makes fun of Ray. And of course, as to be expected, Ray's little thing is eventually outed to Debra, and it causes them to have a little back and forth argument with each other. And it leads to the big standoff thing, and that is, who can go the longest without requesting sex from the other? Which, of course, is where we get the scene I mentioned at the top, where Ray walks in his very fancy underwear. But the fun thing is, before he does it, we see that Debra is in there too, and she has a weapon of her own. She has very fancy lingerie. And they both know what the other's doing, which is why this scene is very, very funny. This is the highlight scene of the whole episode, where you can definitely tell that each is trying to get the other to break. Or to paraphrase a famous movie, Mrs. Barone, you're trying to seduce me. And then, I just love how every cut shows a different night. And they're each wearing different outfits, and they're each doing something different. And you're like, okay, let's see how long this game goes. And I have a feeling that they shot all of this before they recorded the majority of this episode in front of a studio audience, and they just played it. Just from the logical perspective of time management. Because that strikes me as something like, okay, we'll film it, then we'll show it to them, and then we'll go to the next scene. And while they're doing that, we'll quickly have Ray and Debra quickly switch into their other outfits so they can be ready to film the final scene. In the end, of course, Ray is the one that breaks, as we think he would be. And it's so casual. It's at breakfast. He breaks. And to top it off, Debra seems to, at first she's playing coy, like, really? We were still doing that? Now, I will admit, the episode got me at first. I'm like, okay, are they going in the thing that she actually forgot they were doing this, and that's going to be the end gag? But nope. Some of her psychological warfare with Ray. She still remembered that they were still in the middle of it, but she wanted to get Ray back a little bit. And the way she reveals this is she tells Ray, actually, you're off by 1 day. It's been blah, blah days, not blah, blah, blah. So it shows she's been keeping track. She's been waiting for this thing to end, but she also needs it too. And of course, it looks like they're going to go up, but then the kids come downstairs, and that kills the mood. And you can definitely see the mood kill and defeat cross Ray's face when he realizes that Debra is going to go take care of the kids. He's like, ah. All in all, this is a fun episode. Definitely the last of the great episodes that centers on Ray and Debra, which, considering there's only a couple more episodes, I mean, it's not saying a lot, but considering what we've had from this season, for me, it is saying a lot. Like, let me bring up what I have on my notes for episodes-wise. Like, I mean, Angry Sex was probably the previous episode before this. It was a great one focusing on them. I mean, every other one focuses either on the side characters or it's more across the street. Because let's see, PTNA. I mean, that one was more. That was more like a Debra-centric one with Ray just there. Allie's F about the kids. Boys Therapy about all three of the boys. Debra's parents. Jump for Robert. Date for Peter. Favors. The Faux Pas. That one is more like just a family reacting to Ray doing something stupid. So it's more Ray-centered one. Tasteless Frank. So yeah. And I have to say, if you're gonna do a very last hurrah for their relationship when it comes to being a episode centered on their dynamic as a couple and the type of arguments they can get involved in, this is definitely one. Now, as I've said time and again, it is one that could have happened at any time in the show's run. Here, I think it works a little bit more because the kids are older, so you can bring that dynamic in. And, as I've said it already, it does end as a last hurrah for it. The performances from the actors are good, especially Ray and strutting his stuff, and then him breaking. You know, Patricia Heaton, good as always, as Debra. And the writing around that singular joke, and then the editing of that one scene is really what makes this. If this was placed in like season 3 or 4, it might not stand out. It'd probably get a little bit more lost in this shuffle. It's just another good episode amongst a stream of good episodes, other than maybe the specifics. But here in the final season, where the pickings seem a little slim by comparison, it definitely stands out more. Which is the reason I'd say Ray got a nomination. I mean, not to say his chops are bad, but if this was an episode filled with other bangers, it probably would have been another one. But it could still have been this one, and we'll never know that for certain. And that's really all there is to say about this one. I don't really think I'll have much to say about one of these episodes until we get to the finale, because then there's a lot more drama. But then it's the finale of the season and of the show, so that goes without saying. This is definitely one that's not worth skipping, definitely worth watching just to see Ray in those boxers. And it shows that even in the last season, when the show was on its last legs, and it's like, yeah, it looks like the steam is long since gone, the horse has long since left the barn, there is still some highlights. Whether I'll be saying that in the next episode or being like, yeah, I don't know. But my interest is at least piqued just for the fact we're going to get a little bit more insight into a certain mother-in-law character, and that, of course, is going to be Pat's secret. Till then, everybody.